Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Here with some post-fight thoughts on Abner Maris's win over Joseph Agbeko. Now, before I go further, let me just say, these post-fight videos are always tough. There's always a group that feels that the fighter who was awarded the victory earned the victory, and that no one, especially not some random person on YouTube, should say anything to diminish that victory in any way, right? And so some of the more controversial videos I've made, and I'm measuring controversy by the comments left for me here on YouTube, and the videos and the comments are still on YouTube, are videos I've made after fights in which the guy I thought was going to win was awarded the victory. People may remember my post-fight video on Paul Williams versus Erislandy Lara, right? Old-timers may remember a post-fight video I made, Carl Froch against Andre Durrell. At the time, Froch had already beaten Jean Pascal. I had picked Froch in the fight, but after the fight I made a video where I said, hey, you know what? As I watched the fight, even though the guy I picked won the fight, I was wrong on it, because I thought Andre Durrell, the lesser-known fighter, had actually beaten Carl Froch. Durrell would go on to beat Arthur Abraham, right? There are other fights. I remember one time when Paul Williams was the most feared man in boxing. He was fighting a lesser-known fighter. I said, hey, this fight's too dangerous. The underdog is skilled. Stay away from this fight, I told gamblers. And then I made a post-fight video. That underdog was Sergio Martinez. Paul Williams was awarded the decision after the fight. It was the first time they fought. And I made a post-fight video saying that I thought that the underdog, Sergio Martinez, had won that fight. With that in mind, let's talk about Abner Maris against Joseph Agbeko. Going into the fight, you know what? The bet I recommended was Maris to win, straddled against Agbeko by KO. I actually did put some action on the fight. I actually just took Maris to win the fight. I said, hey, it's my money, I'll take the risk. Maris was awarded the decision. But let me just say, you know, boxing is a sport that's governed by rules. In my opinion, it's not a win unless you follow the rules, right? And in other words, you know, if you're knocked down, the referee can't decide to give you a 15 count, have you get up, clear your head, and then beat the champion. That's not the way I see the sport. Now, this was a fight with great action, but as far as I'm concerned, this fight was an exhibition because the rules of boxing weren't followed. You know, as I was watching the fight, and I was watching it with a friend, it was interesting. As I was watching the fight, we noticed the low blows. And the guys on Showtime here in the United States, Antonio Tarver, excellent. Al Bernstein, excellent. Gus Johnson, excellent. They were talking about the low blows. Now, what was stunning is, keep in mind, people who researched the fight, not just me, I'm talking about almost everyone here on YouTube. People who researched the fight knew that an open question before the fight was whether or not Joseph Agbeko would be able to handle Abner Maris's inside game, Abner Maris's body attack, right? Take a look at my pre-fight video, which is still up on YouTube, right? That was a question going in. So as I'm watching the fight, I was watching it to see how Joseph Agbeko was going to handle Abner Maris's body punches. And keep in mind, Abner Maris was warned in the Vic Darchinyan fight about body punches. So this should not have come as a surprise to the referee, right? It's no different than a football official watching Peyton Manning and the Colts and realizing that there are going to be some passes thrown in the game, right? You knew Abner Maris, if he was going to be successful, was going to come inside and try to hit Joseph Agbeko to the body, right? Agbeko tries to hide his body. He bends over at the waist. You knew that Maris, pretty good body puncher, was going to come in to the body. Now, the fight was interesting. It was riveting. I actually enjoyed both fighters. I thought they're both highly skilled. But here's the kicker. You know, Joseph Agbeko was actually prepared for Abner Maris to come to the body. So he had a defense where his left hand was dangling across his body. And he had his body, his elbow came almost to his waist. Keep in mind, this is by design, his defensive construct. So what he's trying to do is to force Abner Maris to go through his arm, his left arm, to hit his body. Right? Abner Maris's left hook, right? You know, he's trying to dig his left hook on Joseph Agbeko. And Agbeko has his left arm draped. Then he has his right arm also bent. And I think this is key, right? Because when he comes in, he actually has on body armor. He actually has defense set up. If you're going to be able to land your left hook to the body on Joseph Agbeko, you're going to have to get around, by design, his elbow. That's the defense he brings into the fight. Now, all I could say is this. For me, this fight was a non-fight. As far as I'm concerned, Joseph Agbeko still has his belt. If Nonito Donaire decides to fight Joseph Agbeko and not Abner Maris, I have absolutely no objection. Because Abner Maris didn't beat Joseph Agbeko. What Abner Maris did to get around Joseph Agbeko's right elbow was to throw punches below the elbow, below Agbeko's waist. And this happened the entire fight. Right? He's throwing that left hook, and it's almost always going low. I'm not saying he didn't hit Agbeko with some legitimate body punches. But understand, we don't know. We simply don't have the info. We don't know how energized Agbeko would have been had he not been depleted by 24 punches below the belt. Right? You can't look at the scoring. I understand one judge had it even as it was. Right? One judge had it even as it was. The other two had 4-point differentials. Let me just say, you can't look at those 4-point differentials and know how those judges would have scored the fight had Agbeko not been hit low so many times that it had to slow down his game. Right? The bottom line is Abner Maris could not get by Joseph Agbeko's defense. So he went around it and around the rules by hitting him low. And as for the referee, I have no idea what fight he was watching. You know, this was a fight. It's like me watching Julio Cesar Chavez and not realizing that he's going to throw body punches. Then when he throws body punches, I'm not even in position to determine whether they're, low or what have you. And let me just say, too, that I completely blame Abner Maris because, to me, sportsmanship would have dictated that even if the referee was blind, even if you were fighting Agbeko without a referee, it seems to me that if you're a professional boxer at the championship level, you know you're not supposed to be throwing punches below the waist. And let me just say, he threw several. And it was interesting because my friend and I watching it, we saw some and we thought, okay, that's on the belt line. But then there were others where we said, okay, that was below the belt line. And we said that a number of times in this fight. Let me just say this too. Agbeko, to his credit, made adjustments. I want you to look at that 11th round knockdown and understand how the points changed in that round. Agbeko arguably was winning that round. Could have been a 10-9 for Agbeko. Instead, it went in the books as a 10-8. That round by itself is a 3-point swing. And understand, Agbeko has his hands down and actually has the legal shot on the belt line blocked. Right? Take a look at it. You'll see Agbeko has his hand down. He actually has the punch blocked. Maris goes below Agbeko's guard to literally hit him, let's say, in a private place where just thinking about it has me cringing, right? In other words, Maris, I don't know what the story is, but I wouldn't be surprised if he were later to admit that some of the punches were intentional. Because that 11th round shot, all I'm saying is when you're throwing a punch on a guy and he has his glove already on his belt line, you know when you're going below that. That 11th round punch looked flagrant to me, right? And all I'm saying is this. To get to that 11th round, had the referee been warning Abner Maris throughout the fight, and keep in mind, most fights, by the time you get to the 5th low blow, not the 20th, the 5th low blow, there are points being taken away. Had Abner Maris been warned up until that point, he could have been docked a point in that round, right? Quite frankly, could have been disqualified had a previous point been taken away, but he could have been docked a point in that round. If it was going to be a 10-9 round for Joseph Agbeko, Agbeko would have won that round by 2 points. Now understand, that's a 4-point swing in one round because of an illegal low blow. So I enjoyed the action. I think these guys are highly skilled. Let me just say, though, that as far as I'm concerned, even though I picked Maris to win the fight, and no, I'm not going to give the casino back their money, but the bottom line is this. As far as I'm concerned, that fight was a non-fight. There's no way that you can take Joseph Agbeko's title or any guy's title throwing 20-odd low blows. And, this might be the kind of thing where, okay, the ref had a bad night. Okay, Abner Maris can't control where his punches land, which would be terrible for him. Right? Let's say both of those are true. The bottom line is, even if there's no evil intent, the title shouldn't have changed hands Saturday night. Shouldn't have changed hands. Because you cannot beat a champ with 20-odd low blows. That's simply ridiculous. I was, completely disappointed. Let me also point out, too, as any fan of Evander Holyfield from the '84 Olympics remembers, as any fan of Roy Jones from the '88 Olympics remembers, sometimes the real winner is not the guy who was given the victory by the judges. Sometimes the real winner is the person who the boxing public knows was robbed. I still have friends to this day, 20-odd years later, who believe that Marvin Hagler beat Ray Leonard. That you can't take a champ's title by fighting the way Leonard did in that late 80s match, right? They still look at Marvin as the champion, right? All I'm saying is this. The real winner for this fight, just in the eyes of public opinion, based on the emails I've gotten, is Joseph Agbeko. He handled himself with class. I congratulate him for continuing the fight.